God, we are so thankful and we're so grateful for your presence being here with us, and we are thankful for those of you who are joining us today in the worship service, and we're thankful for those who are going to be streaming via YouTube and watching the video. Thankful for your lives today also. If whatever God's going to do in you today, he's going to do something powerful. I don't know what you have been longing for, what you have been looking for, but I know that God has got something in store for you, and I believe that today you're going to receive truly some great miracles from God. Once again, we are still working through the story of Abraham, and we're trying to take it a little bit slower than what we would normally like it to. But nevertheless, it's not about what we like. It's about what God has designed in His Word. And for this particular series, there may be something in this that you didn't see before, like I didn't see before. There may be something that you need to glean from. So we just want to take time and be a part of God, be about God's business, about His service. So with everyone, just for real quick, just a few quick short announcements for those watching on YouTube, those here in the service. We do have Bible study every Thursday at 7 p.m. You all are welcome. We're right here at 242 Chilenko Street, right here at the home of the ministry, and you're all welcome to attend and to join. Doesn't mean that you walk away from your home, because you know where your home church is. But if you have nothing else to do that night, and you want some more of the word, because when you had great word Wednesday night, and you just want to continue to be filled, come on out, worship with us, and study the word with us. We're in the book of John, and John has been an unbelievable book, and has been unraveling some mysteries to us. So we're grateful for that book, and we're asking for God to just continue to show Himself strong on our behalf. Also, we will be having our services continue outside again every third Sunday. We meet down at Minister Arceo's house outside. We're going to set up outside. We're going to have us a good time in the Word, and we're going to have a guest speaker this month teaching the Word on that Sunday. So be prepared for that. We want to see you all come out to that, because it's going to be a powerful day. Also, don't forget Sunday morning service. We begin here at 10 a.m. Thank God for all of you here. Are you ready for the Word?
Yes.
Amen. In the book of Genesis, 12th chapter, told you we're walking through this Abraham journey a little bit slower. We're going to read the 10th, starting at the 10th verse, and we're going to go ahead and finish the chapter out, because it's only 10 verses to read. When you have it, say amen. If you need some more time, just say, wait on me. And as is our custom, I know I can't see you on YouTube. I know I can't physically put my eyes on you, but if you have the Word, go ahead, stand for the reading of the Word, as our custom, as those that are here are standing in response to the reading of the Word. Genesis 12, chapter 10 says, "Now there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to dwell there, for the famine was severe in the land. And it came to pass, when he was close to entering Egypt, that he said to Sarai, his wife, 'Indeed, I know that you are a woman of beautiful countenance. Therefore it will happen, when the Egyptians see you, that they will say, This is his wife. And they will kill me, but they will let you live. Please say you are my sister, that it may be well with me for your sake, and that I may live because of you.' So it was, when Abram came into Egypt, that the Egyptians saw the woman, that she was very beautiful. The princes of the Pharaoh also saw her and commended her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. He treated Abram well for her sake. He had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male and female servants, female donkeys, and camels. But the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, 'What is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife?' Why did you say she is my sister? Now therefore, here is your wife. Take her and go your way. So Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. Father God, I just want to tell you thank you for your word. Thank you for the opportunity to speak your word and teach your word to your people. I pray, oh God, that whoever under the sound of my voice is hearing this, God, that they would not hear this man, but they would hear you, my Father, that they will receive you. So now remove this man, so that the man would not be glorified or edified or honored, but that you, Father, will receive all honor, glorification, and edification, my God, my King. Lord, I pray right now that whoever is hearing this word, that their life would truly be transformed. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Give me a second. I gotta get a little juice in me here. I've been working hard this week, and the throat is a little bit dry. So I got my juice so that we can continue on. We're still talking on the main subject title, Travel, Travail, and Promise. Travel, Travail, and Promise. Today, however, we're going to be talking under that title as a subtitle, Passing Through. Passing through. Now, we just got through last week coming into Canaan. And God has, and Abram built an altar and worshiped God in between Bethel and Ai in the land of Canaan. And Bethel, as we know, means house of God, and Ai means house of ruin. And he was in the middle of a rock and a hard place, literally. He was in the middle of a decision at that time while he was in worship, but he just decided that he was going to worship in the middle of the decision, so he would have the ability to make the proper decision. And he's now come into a point where there is some famine. There is a famine in the land. Now, I didn't do the research, but I know that we can, if we did the actual research of how many times that there was a famine in the land, we would probably pull up somewhere in the numbers. I'm just going to say a number out there that may be a little bit low. I'm going to say at least 50 times there was a famine in the land. It may be low, may be high, but I know that oftentimes we find out about a famine going on before we hear about something else. And typically a famine means that there is the crops are scarce, the food is scarce, the water is scarce, that there are things that we need for our daily lives that are just scarce, and we cannot find them. And here now Abram finds himself in the middle of a famine. And it doesn't just say just a famine. It says a severe famine. Other versions say grievous famine. And it is, regardless of how they say it, the famine was worse than normal. It was one of the worst seasons in the land of Canaan that had ever been experienced, according to concordance, according to the chapters. It was so bad that this land flowing with milk and honey had dried up, and there was no milk and honey flowing for the people. The fruits that the spies brought back, those fruits, the grapes that they brought back, where they carried, where two of them had to carry the bushel of grapes, were dried up, were shriveled up, and were prunes now. They were raisins. They weren't even grapes anymore. The apples weren't apples. The oranges weren't oranges. It was just dry. It was a bad famine. It was the worst famine ever. And Abram finds himself in the middle of the famine. And in the middle of the famine, he's in Canaan. He says, Canaan, he probably says to himself, Canaan it's dried up right now, and there's nothing here for me. I'm just gonna go ahead and take everything I've got and find a place where there's a little bit of life, some sustenance, some resources, so that I don't have to suffer and that my family doesn't have to suffer. And I can tell you this, as a man, we never want our families to suffer. Never. We want our families to always be blessed. We want our families to prosper. We want our families to always do well. That's why you will see. That's why most men will go to the ends of what they can go to make sure that their families are doing have what they can have and have what they need, and they will go and they will do sometimes what is necessary, even if it costs them their very freedom, to make sure that their family does not suffer. And Abram, doing the same thing, just decided, I don't want my family to suffer in the middle of a famine. So he picks his stuff up and he moves to Egypt. He goes from Canaan to Egypt. Now God tells him in chapter 12, Abram, get out of your country, get away from your people, and go to the land that I will show you. And God shows him Canaan, but he never showed him Egypt. But Abraham journeys to Egypt. Well, I guess I can commend Abraham because, he could have turned back. He could have went to Haran. He could have went back to his mama and his mama's house. He could have went back to where his family was. And he could have hung out there in Haran until the famine in Canaan was over. But he chose to go to Israel. So that tells me at least he was not at least he was a man who didn't want to go back to where he come from. He was willing to move forward. He just wasn't willing to move backwards. And that's cool, because no one wants to go backwards. We don't want to revert in life. We want to always make progress. Even those folks who constantly are doing the opposite or in a constant state of rebellion. They don't want to rebel backwards. They want to rebel forwards. They don't want to cause you trouble back. They want to find new. They want to do some new things for you, to you. No one wants to move backwards. And the famine in the land sometimes causes us to go back. Back to the beginning. Back to the time when God released the word. Back to the time when God first showed up. And because sometimes the famine doesn't give us very, very much insight into what God is doing. But by going backwards, you don't always wind up at the beginning. You wind up back in a place of dying. So he does not go back to a place of dying. He just continues to move forward. And he moves forward into Egypt. But God never called him to Egypt. Never called Abram to Egypt. Never said, Abram, go to Egypt. Never said, Abram, go to this land I'm going to show you, and then go to Egypt during the famine. And I believe that sometimes that we forget that even in the middle of what we are going through, God is able to provide for us and able to make us, to sustain us in the middle of the famine. Because if God called you to any place, he called you there for one reason. And when he called you there, he didn't call you to leave you. And there is a song, I love this song. It says, nobody told me that the road would be easy, but I don't believe he's brought me this far to leave me. I don't believe that God put Abram in Canaan and allowed the famine to come to kill Abram. I believe that God allowed the famine to come to prove Abram. And it was in the proving where Abram was like, ooh, my family's suffering, I'm suffering. You know what? There's got to be another place that has something that's going to keep me from suffering. So he goes to Egypt. Journeys to Egypt. And I just want to put this point down here for you, because we need to all know and this is just a point for you all to just put into your minds and something to put into your heart, is that the famine won't kill you. The famine won't kill you. It's not, the famine is not designed to kill you. It's not designed to stop you. It's not designed to make you quit. The famine is designed just to prove you. And you know, sometimes we forget why we go through things. And I love what my brother James told me, what my brother James said yesterday, because he related it to something that was so powerful, and it was just so good that I have to tell you again myself, is when we go to the gym, you don't go to the gym expecting to already have the muscle. Typically, you go to the gym because you don't have the muscle, you don't have the endurance, you don't have the strength, and so you go to the gym and you go there repeatedly until you get the strength and until you gain strength, and it is the resistance against your muscles that causes you to gain more strength, and every time you add more resistance and you're able to push that resistance, you gain more strength. And the famine came against Abram not to kill him, but to give him strength. But Abram went to Egypt. God called him to a land that was flowing with milk and honey, but Abram decided, because the famine was too severe, it was just too much to bear in his own human flesh, he went to Egypt. And now I know we all hear how Abraham journeyed to Egypt. You know, he went to Canaan and then left Canaan, went to Egypt, and then went back to Canaan. We all hear about that story, and we all tell that story several different ways. But I want you to hear the story the way that God has given me. Because in his journey from Canaan, to Egypt, he put his family in harm's way. Because he had to cross the desert. When he crossed the desert, he had to cross in front of the plains of the Amalekites. And those are some bad people. He had to cross the Amorites, and those are some bad people. He had to cross those mountain people, dangerous people. He had to cross where thieves and where murderers and where all sorts of danger was going on, just to go from Canaan to Egypt. But the famine was not designed to kill him. The famine was designed to prove him. It was designed to prove him. Playing sports as a young man, oftentimes I would be matched up against one of the better players on the team. I remember in my very first time ever playing football in an organized realm, I was matched up against my best friend, and my best friend was the best defensive lineman and the best offensive tackles that we had, and he had one of the fastest first steps that you can imagine. I mean, just as a young man, I'm learning how to play this game, and now I'm going against the best individual on this team, and he is my best friend. He is the godfather to my son, and and I love him dearly. But I had to go against him, and because I had to go against him constantly, all it did was make me better. Every time I was able to stay with him a little bit longer. I was able to compete with him a little bit longer, until one day it was no longer me trying to compete against him, but it was now me and him coming against each other as equals. And the battles that we had were I'm not going to say they were epic, they weren't legendary, but they were ferocious. And this is all before we became friends. I meet him, and he helps to push me, and he helps to give me strength in this sport. And many times, oftentimes, when I would be in a game and I would be playing against another individual that didn't match up to the level that I was already used to, I was able to overcome with great ease, because I had already been tested. I had already been proven in practice. I had already been proven in the famine. I had already been proven. Abraham, God was just trying to prove Abraham with the famine. And Abraham got up, packed up, and went to Egypt. Now, if I was in his shoes, I mean, I don't know what I would do. I don't know what you would do if you were in Abram's shoes. You'd have to think about this for a minute, because Abram is thinking about his wife, his nephew, his nephew's family, all of his livestock, all his nephew's livestock. He's not just thinking about himself. He's thinking about the totality of everything and everybody that is with him. And he's saying, you know, man, if I stay in this famine, I might lose some people. I might lose some things. I might lose. But God never called the famine to kill Abram. And you can write this down. You can put this on your wall, or you can do whatever you want to do. When God calls you, he provides for you. Whether it's famine or whether it's plenty. When God calls you, he provides for you. He does not intend for you to remain in lack. He does not intend for you to remain in a famine. You know what? The resources of the land may dry up, but God's resources never dry up. And Abraham goes to Egypt. And while he's on his way to Egypt, just before he enters the gate, he realizes something. His wife Sarah is good looking. Now, I don't know if he didn't notice that before, or if this was the first time he noticed that, you know what, my wife got it going on. I remember when I first met my wife, when I was younger, and before I began to date her, when I very first saw her, I said, ooh, she got it going on. And I was, and that right there, boom, my mind, my whole being was attracted to her. And even to this day, I can tell you that my wife has it going on. But Abraham, for some reason, at this point now, we notice that he says, oh, man, Sarah got it going on. So he gets nervous. He gets scared because his wife is beautiful. He gets scared because his wife has something inside of her that's not inside of him. He gets scared because she is his helpmate. But you know, as his helpmate, he could be killed because of his helpmate. So he's a little bit nervous, and because he's going to a place where he shouldn't have gone to anyway. He's a little. It's a strange place. He's a little bit nervous. Now let me tell you. Let me share with you something. Okay, God called Terah, Abraham's father. Not called him, but Terah, Abraham's father, left which is in Babylonia, and the Babylonians they are pagan people and they worship other gods. Okay, well, Terah still had that other god worship in him when he went to Haran, and when he gets to Haran, Terah is still worshiping other gods, and because Terah is still worshiping other gods, God calls Abram out of that land so that he would not worship them other gods, but that he would worship God the Father in spirit and in truth. And he goes to a place in Egypt where they worship other gods. After God called him out, God has already called him out of the place where they worship other gods. Little g. And Abraham becomes fearful because his wife is beautiful. And because his wife is beautiful, Abraham says, you know, baby girl, I need you to do me a favor. I really need you to do me a favor. I need you to tell them that you're not my wife. I need you to tell them that you're just my sister. Because you're so beautiful. You're so beautiful that if they know that you're my wife, you know, the Egyptians will commit murder They would rather commit murder than to commit adultery. They will kill me just to have you. Fear does a lot of things to us, people. It really does. It makes us, fear of the famine caused Abraham to go to Egypt. Fear of the giftings in his wife caused him to have his wife tell a lie and remove a portion of who he was from her life. And now here's the thing: is God is all about relationship. That's why when we say the marriage vows, we say what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. That is the relationship. What God has joined, let no man put asunder, or let no man tear apart. That is the relationship. Abram, at this very moment, when he tells Sarah to call herself his sister, now technically, he wasn't lying. Technically, he wasn't lying. Sarai is his stepsister because she is from one of the women in his father's harem. Okay, but they have the same father, but not the same mama. So that is his sister. That is his sister. Technically, but for this cause, he was calling her his sister to manipulate. The technicality of why she is his sister means nothing. He calls her his sister out of fear. And then he goes to say, you know what? Because of you, they might kill me. But if you tell them that you're my sister, then what they'll do is they'll treat me well because of you. To manipulate. Fear has a strange way of doing some crazy things to us. It caused him to move from Canaan in the middle of a famine that was not going to kill him to a land in Egypt that was foreign to him. At least he went to Egypt and he didn't go back to Haran. Because if he probably would have went back to Haran, they might have said, hey, what happened? We thought God called you. You said God said for you to leave us. But in Egypt now, Sarah is called his sister. And I want to give this point to you. I want you to understand this, and I want this to be very, very, very clear. Relationship is valued highly by God. Relationship is valued highly by God. Whether it's the relationship between you and your wife, your relationship between you and your children, your relationship between you and your parents, your relationship is valued highly by God. It's valued so high that his relationship between man was to send his son to die on a borrowed cross. That's how high God values relationship. It's incredible. And to have Abram devalue the relationship that he had committed to with Sarah, because in the marriage vows, it says, in sickness and in health, till death do we part, for better or for worse. It could have gotten worse in Egypt. It could have gotten worse in Egypt for Abram. But it could have gotten better also. It could have been much better. But he'll never know now. Because he chose the opposite. He chose to devalue what God placed great value on. And that's the problem with us sometimes, is we devalue what God places value on. Whether it be people, places, or things, we devalue it. It's not as important to us as it is to God, because it may get us into trouble. It may cause us some pain. It may cause us some hurt. But God has already put in you what he's designed to get out of you. He's put in your relationship what he wanted to get out of you in your relationship. Everyone who has a wife right now, if you are married, bless you. If you're single, bless you. Okay, everyone who has a wife or spouse or a significant other right at this very moment, that spouse, that spouse is designed specifically for you. Now, God did not choose your husband or wife. Let me get that disclaimer out there. God did not choose your husband and or your wife. He gave you the option to make the choice. All he did was he sent the gifting, and he sent gifts toward in your direction. And the gifts that you saw in your spouse is the reason why you chose them. God did not choose them. God chose the gift. God chose the specific gifts that were needed to make you better. And sent them your direction. And wrapped them up in whatever package they wrapped them up in. Now, he wrapped mine up in a little 5 foot, she said 5'1" and some change, but I believe 5 foot. Okay? I believe she's 5 foot. I think she's got that, I think the doctors are telling a little tale. But he wrapped mine up in a little bit short, 5 foot one package with that smiles all the time, and that's very bubbly, and that's very cheerful, and it's very cheery. Because he knew that there was some giftings that I would see. I don't know how he's wrapped your package up, but he wrapped mine up like that. And he wrapped my package up and my package was good looking. And we created a relationship. When we created value in that relationship. And because because there were points and times in our lives where we devalued the relationship, bad things happen. Bad things always happen when you devalue what God places value on. Who knows? I might be a multi-millionaire right now had I would not have devalued my relationship at points and times in my life. And my wife had not devalued our relationship at points and times in her life. If we would have just kept the same value that we started with, who knows where we would have been. Thank God. Thank God. We're not where we used to be. We're not all the way there. But I'm not what I used to be.
Amen.
It is not the point of going to Egypt. That's the overall problem. I believe, I believe that God said, okay, well, Abraham, he couldn't handle his family. Okay, well, I got you. Whatever, no problem. Okay, so he goes to Egypt. I'm not going to leave him even though he's going to Egypt. But when he devalued the relationship,